Hello and welcome back to the Odds Now YouTube channel for the second ever edition of our brand new Betting Breakdown podcast. Every Wednesday we are going to be looking ahead to the upcoming week of sports action with our punting hats on, previewing the biggest events and hopefully pointing you in the direction of a few winners along the way. In the hot seat, it's me, Matt Hill, but I will be joined by guests, and once again I'm delighted to say I've got a couple of familiar faces helping mark your card ahead of some big upcoming events. There's plenty of top class stuff for horse racing fans to feast upon this week. We're in the middle of the 5-day Punchestown Festival in the national hunt scene, with all of the best Irish horses taking each other on for some big pots. While in the flat, it's all about the Guineas. 2,000 guineas on Saturday, 1,000 guineas on Sunday. Adam Smido from Races Now, the perfect man to get us up to speed on Newmarket. In the world of football, it's crunch time with European semi-finals coming across the Champions League, Europa League and Europa Conference League. We've got English involvement in all three competitions and some fascinating ties going to take place over the next couple of days. Felix Morson-Pate joined me to discuss all of those, and we also had a little look ahead to the final weekend of the English Football League season. And as always, you've got the jack of all trades, me, rounding up other sport at the end of the show. This week there will be a focus on the World Snooker Championship, which has reached its quarter-final stage with some top-class names still in the running for the title. And we'll also be having a quick look at some other sports as well. So plenty coming up for you. Do stay tuned, and if you haven't already, do please hit that subscribe button. Let's get into it. But we kick off this week with horse racing, and anyone who watched last week's first show will remember my guest Adam Smith from Races Now telling us that last Saturday's action was a tad underwhelming from Sandown. Well, it couldn't be any further from the truth this weekend. We've got the 2,000 and the 1,000 guineas coming from Newmarket, which mark the first classics of the flat season and guaranteed top draw superstars emerging that we're going to be able to follow over the coming months. So exciting time for flat fans. National Hunt fans have also got a bit to enjoy too. The Punchestown Festival has already kicked off, started on Tuesday, runs until Saturday. 5 days of racing action from Ireland, where many of the top National Hunt stars will renew rivalries one last time this season. So once again, I caught up with Adam and he talked a little bit about Punchestown and Newmarket, but also gave us a couple of horses to keep an eye out for over the weekend. Let's see what he had to say. Well, great once again to be joined by Smido from Races Now to give us our weekly rundown on all things racing. And it's a very busy week in both codes, actually. We've got the Punchestown Festival from Ireland, which is always... it's a great festival in its own stance, but obviously a little bit of the after effects of Cheltenham and Aintree does have an impact on the field. But there's some big names still turning up in Ireland this week. And then on the flat, the weekend, we have guineas, 2,000 guineas and 1,000 guineas from Newmarket. I don't think there is anyone better placed in the world to hype us up for the guineas than the man opposite me on the screen here. But before we jump in, Smid, last week we spoke to you and we looked ahead to two cards at Sandown. You had contrasting feelings on, really. The flat card on the Friday you were very excited about. The Saturday jumps finale, less so. What were your takeaways from that action? Did the Friday live up to expectations? And is there anything you would sort of point viewers into as key takeaways from those 2 days?
Yeah, absolutely, it did. As we said, the Bet365 Mile Group 2 was a Group 1 in all but name last Friday, and it was cracking. We spoke last week. It was rather complicated for the casual racing fan, if you like, because we had quite a few horses carrying 3 or even 4 different weights in a Group 2 race. So Opera Ballo was the horse that carried the most weight, having won a high Group 1 already this year, had the fitness edge, was back from about 8-1 into 4-1 just on the off. And who'd have thought it that the horse most well backed in a race which was a small field, and we questioned who might lead, Opera Ballo absolutely pinged out like a greyhound and led every single yard. So whoever was having that money on late obviously knew that. Impressive. Got to be impressive, given that he carried the most weight. He beat Fielder Gold, who went off the even money favourite and finished second. Zeus Olympios was the second favourite, as expected. That one finished third. The one that I tipped on Races Now and mentioned in this preview last week, Never So Brave, unfortunately was pretty much pulled up, to be honest. Looked like there was something wrong with that one. He travelled quite well into it. So, Opera Ballo, really impressive performance. We're going to see a rematch of a lot of these horses, not Opera Ballo, he's going to France, but Field of Gold, Zeus Olympios, all the other horses actually in the race may well go to Newbury for the lock-ins. That's on the 16th of May, Group 1. over a straight mile. So we look forward to that. In the classic trial at Sandown, Rahib was bang impressive. A 3-year-old has only raced once until last Friday. He's a full brother to Baid, probably the best horse we've seen in the UK this decade, or one of, and Hookham, who was another good horse as well, a dual Group 1 winner. So Rahib has gone into the near the top of the Derby market, but the trainer has said that horse, he did play up before the start, he misbehaved himself. He might not be ready for the experience that is Epsom with 70,000 fans and all the buses, etc., on the inside of the track. So he might not be ready for that. Sadad, I actually tipped the second Alzanate in that classic trial, so I will take that, but would have always, of course, hoped for better. In the Gordon Richards Stakes, I tipped King of Cities. That one was second as well. I tipped that one at win only. Sadad, tipped by my colleague SD on Racers Now, won well. So, yeah, really interesting day on Friday. Enjoyed it. The flat action is really, obviously this weekend as well, is really ramping up now. We saw the end of the jump season. It was crap, to be honest. Yeah.
As expected them.
Yeah, we said last week that there was no, we'll come on to this, man, but there was no real Willie Mullins impact on the Sandown card last weekend, as there had been in previous years. He's concentrating his efforts on the Irish trainers title where he resides. We'll come on to that for Punchestown. Yeah, it was crap. Edward Stone, who's about 12 years old, won a Grade 1. John Bond was a late non-runner on account of the ground. There was loads of non-runners. It was crap. The less said about that, the better.
Yeah, okay. Well, sounds like you hit the bar a couple of times with them seconds, but in the right ballpark nevertheless. And yeah, like you said, there's some very exciting flat action coming up over the weeks ahead, not least this weekend. But first, we should just touch on Punchestown. As we record on Tuesday, and this episode will be going out on Wednesday, so we won't dwell on Tuesday's racing too much, but we've got 4 days of action from Punchestown here. Any National Hunt fans, there's plenty of big names in action, most of which we saw at the Cheltenham Festival, some of which we didn't and have skipped and are back out of Punchestown. But what do you make of Punchestown? I know you're not a National Hunt man really, but you're very active in the racing scene, and it's a festival to me where it can be quite hard to go in, too strong on results, because you've got all these horses that have different types of seasons to this point, haven't they? Some of them, this has been their primary target. A lot of them, it hasn't. It depends how they've come out their races, etc. It's quite a tricky one to punt on with a lot of confidence, I would suggest.
Yeah, that's right. For those that aren't out and out jumps racing fans like me, I will be basically ignoring it this week. Not because it lacks in quality, just because there's so much going on in the flat. We've actually got a really good card at Ascot on Friday, for example. There's a good card at Epsom on Tuesday. So yeah, and obviously looking forward to 3 days at Newmarket at the weekend. So there's so much going on. The headline from Punchestown this week is that it is Willie Mullins' battalion. He's got multiple horses in virtually every race. There is 2 or even 3 Grade 1s every day. So all of the big stars that you saw at Cheltenham, Irish ones particularly, you are likely to see this week at Punchestown. So I'll certainly be watching the races. Will I be looking at them in depth and trying to pick out bets? No. But yeah, there's certainly a lot to look forward to. I think the highlight on Friday is the Punchestown Gold Cup, where you've got Gold Cup winner Gaelic Warrior, Factor Files in there as well. He won when they last met at Leopardstown in February. We've got last year's Gold Cup winner, I Know the Way You're Thinking, in there as well. So that's really, really fantastic. But yeah, it's you will scroll through the races. That racing question that I've just mentioned, I picked at random, really. There's 5 runners, 4 of them are trained by Willie Mullins. That's going to be a theme of the week. Gordon Elliott, I think, has a lead in the Irish Trainers Championship going into this week. It'll be decided this week. Willie Mullins is long odds on to win the Irish Trainers Championship yet again. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I was just going to say, because obviously Gordon Elliott has a lead going into the week, but because Willie Mullins will literally just run virtually everything he owns and everything he trains, Mullins with Paddy Power is 1-20 to win the Irish Trainers Championship. So, even though he's behind at the time of speaking, so that tells you how things are expected to go. And we will see lots of Willie Mullins winners in the frame in various races, and it may not necessarily be the market leader that is taking the first place, but we shall see how the action pans out. There's some great names. Anyone who's a fan of jumps racing will enjoy the fields, the quality of the fields on show, I'm sure, across those 4 days. That runs from Tuesday to Friday, onto the weekend then.
Saturday as well.
Saturday as well. Sorry, apologies. Yeah. But onto the weekend, onto Newmarket, because that is where your attention is going to be, I'm sure, and the eyes of most racing fans. Very exciting times with the 2000 and the 1000 Guineas. You've given us rundowns on what these races consist of and stuff previously, but just give us a little bit of a rundown of how the market is looking right now and anything you maybe flag for viewers to keep an eye on between now and race day.
Yep, so SD and I covered every single runner in the 2000 Guineas and the 1000 Guineas on our channel in separate videos last night. Safe to say that we both kind of agreed, really, in that the 2000 Guineas is unfortunately a below par renewal, mainly because quite a few horses that were decent last year are not running in this race for one reason or another. So that's a shame. Whereby if you look at the 1000 Guineas, we thought that was ripe for a bet. There's question marks over the favourite there, who I really like. But there's fitness question marks over the favourite Precise in the 1000 Guineas. But in the 2000, yeah, I'm on Bo Echo. I said this last week. I'm happy to say it again. On December the 13th on Racers Now, our channel, I tipped Bo Echo at 12-1. It's now 3-1. Hopefully you can get the job done. Yeah, it's been a bit of a story about Aidan O'Brien. They had a mix-up with a computer a few weeks ago, apparently, where a horse called Gustad, who was very consistent last year and did eventually win a Group 1, he was taken out the race by accident. He was put back in the race yesterday. That little accident with the computer cost them £30,000. So Gustad on Monday was put back in. Apparently, he made noises about going to France. That doesn't look like the plan now. So that's typical Aidan O'Brien bingo. We've not seen a whole lot of change in the market in the last few days. Like I say, we went through every runner, and yesterday, given my position that I've already got on the favourite, I would have happily added another one if I thought there was value, but I don't think there is at the moment. I'll be waiting till Thursday to see what the likes of Aidan O'Brien does. I think if you was to ask me now, what would be if you're starting afresh, who would you back right now? I think Oxagon might be the best value as it stands now. He's 14-1. He won the Craven. That's a course and distance official trial for this race. Quite possibly a poor renewal. A couple of horses were non-runners in that Craven on the day, but he won it nicely nonetheless, and I think he was really tried in some really good races last year. So Oxagon would be of interest if I had to have a bet now. I might end up backing him on Thursday when the final fields are in, but I think he might find one or two too good. I'm happy with Bo Echo, and I think I would be slightly against Distant Storm, who is the Godolphin chosen one by the looks of it at the moment. His second favourite in the market. Charlie Appleby's won the last two renewals of the Guineas. I'll be negative on him and positive towards Bo Echo and possibly Oxagon.
Okay, and then in the 1000 on Sunday for the Fillies, you've already mentioned Precise, a horse you like. You just have slight fitness concerns. So if you do have those sort of concerns over the favourite, is there anything else that takes your eye at prices?
Yeah, absolutely. And there was some for the first time ever, SD and I agreed on a double dip last night. So regular viewers of Racers Now will know that SD in some races where the makeup of the race allows it or attracts it, he would have a double dip. He'll pick two in a race. He's got no problem in doing that, and he's got a great record in doing so. We both ended up double dipping yesterday in the 1000 Guineas independently, and there's 22 horses in there, and we both picked the same two horses. So first up is the Prettiest Star, who I think is outstanding value at the moment, and we both tipped Prettiest Star last night. She is 14-1. I think she's the best bet available in this race at the moment. So if you look at the top of the market in the 1000 Guineas, Precise, 5-2 favourite. She was head and shoulders above anything that we saw in the UK and Ireland last year. But apparently about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, she had a small setback at home. Apparently she had a bit of a cough or a cold like humans get. So I think the script is written for Precise to run to a third or fourth on Sunday at Newmarket. Aidan O'Brien will say that she wasn't 100% fit. He was quite happy with that, and all roads lead to the Oaks. I think that could happen. Venetian Sun's next. Well, Diamond Necklace is next in the market. That's from the same stable as Precise. She will be going to France, so I think you can put a line through her. Venetian Sun's next. I don't think she will stay. True Love is next. I don't think she will stay. My Highness is next for Andre Fabre over from France. She's in at 14-1, 10-1 in places. I don't think she's proven enough so far to be that price. So that does leave us to the Prettiest Star. I think she will be a market mover this week, and she's 14-1. I'm happy to tip her as I did last night, and I'm happy to tip it on this show as well.
Brilliant. Okay.
You do have a massive price as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned two in the race. You can't not give us the other one.
Yeah, so the other one's 50 to 1. Rose Gaiath is 50
well,
to
I
1.
can actually tell you, I've got the market in front of me. There's money coming. It's 33 in a lot of places now. 40 is the best you're going to get with 365. Ladbrokes and Coral at the minute. Obviously, some win only on the exchange, more like 70. But yeah, tell us about Rose Gaiath.
Well, I like to say, SD and I agreed last night. He texted me his screenshot of his selections or his list of selections before we go live. I type them up. They go on the screen. We go with the best price available at the time, and we get the videos published as soon as possible. And he sent me the screenshot. There was a few on there. And I said FFS because he had picked the same horse as me in Rose Gaiath. But it's not all that bad. SD's a good judge. And if we agree, that's surely a good sign. You're taking a bit of a swing. I've tipped it at 50 to 1. It's probably now 40-ish. It's one of 3 runners in the race at the moment for the same owner, Jabba Abdullah. So that comes with a slight caveat that, you pick up, will all 3 of them run? Probably not. But Richard Hughes, the trainer, is on record as saying that this horse will run. Billy Loughnane is jocked up at the moment, which is sometimes a positive to say, there's already a jockey signed up. This horse finished 4th in a Group 2 on just her second start. She didn't debut until the middle of August. And then 3 weeks later, on her second start, she was chucked into a Group 2, which is the second highest level you can go to, where she finished 4th. But if you watch that race back, she missed the start a little bit. She was inexperienced early doors, got sandwiched between horses, and then finished really, really eye-catchingly. The horse that finished first in that race has gone on to run well in a Group 1 in France behind Diamond Necklace. The horse that finished second in that race was second in the Breeders' Cup. And the horse that finished third has since won a Group 3, I think, or a listed race. So you're taking a bit of a swing at the prices, but I do think that's the one with the potential. And like I say, unlike the 2,000 guineas, I think we're going to see some movement in this 1,000 guineas market this week, as those that might not run, like Diamond Necklace, and those that might not stay, like Venetian Sun and True Love, as their prices fluctuate, I think we're going to see definitely the likes of the Prettiest Star shortening. And I do like this look of Rose Gaiath as well. I've backed both of them. I'm happy to tip them. Fingers crossed.
Okay, well, 2 interesting selections at fancy prices. The Prettiest Star 14 to 1 in a variety of places, and money coming for the outside selection of Smido and SD. Rose Gaiath was 50s last night, now 40s and 33s in a lot of places as well. So if you want to have a tickle on the 1,000 guineas, there's 2 picks for you. Before I let you go, Smid, aside from this weekend's action, tell us what you got coming up on races now, between now and the next time we speak, and any other things that you would mention ahead of the weekend.
Well, our usual Thursday show, we did tweet actually on Sunday. SD's got a fair bit going on this week, so have I. So yeah, it could be, we might have to divert from our usual schedule of Monday night and Thursday night. We've done Monday, so that's gone all well and good so far. Thursday, I'm going to be at the City Ground, Pieman, which I'm sure you and Felix might be covering in this show
Yes.
for the Europa League semi-final. I've only just about recovered from Friday. I went to Sunderland, so you can tell Felix that I had the time of my life at Sunderland 4-0 up at half time for the Forest. So yeah, I'm not 100% sure that our Thursday show will be on Thursday. It might be Friday morning, but we will definitely be tipping and covering the full cards at Newmarket on Saturday and Sunday. One horse that will win, I think, this weekend. I've got no price, so I've got no idea what the price is going to be. It's going to be running in a maiden/novice race. Could well be favourite, probably should be favourite. Semper Femina is entered in the 420 at Salisbury on Sunday. If that horse runs, it will win. Semper Femina for Richard Hannon. There was an eye catcher at Newbury where she split a shoe actually on debut a couple of weeks ago. So I'll be looking out for that. But yeah, there's loads of handicaps to look forward to at Newmarket. The Suffolk handicap at Newmarket on Saturday, one of my favourite handicaps in the calendar. I'll be keeping an eye on a horse called Fifth Column in that race. He was basically a non-trier at Newbury a couple of weeks ago. So I'll be keeping an eye on those two. But I really do think Semper Femina will win. And depending on the prices and if he runs, Fifth Column will be of interest.
Okay, well, that is your weekly rundown from Adam Smith. And please do make sure you're subscribed over to Races Now if you enjoy racing content. It's the best in the business. And it's all free in winners left, right and centre. Wishing you the best of luck with your selections this weekend, Smith, and for Forest in the Europa League on Thursday. And yeah, we'll catch up with you again next week.
Thank you. Fingers crossed.
Cheers. Well, always good to catch up with Smido, and definitely some horses to take away from that conversation. Semper Femina is one that I've scribbled down on my notes here, and I'll be keeping an eye for if that is declared and where it runs, what price it will be, etc. But please do make sure you subscribed over to Races Now. As I said in that conversation, for my money, the best racing content in the business. So many winners put up for free by SD, and great insight as well from the guys. So definitely head over there and hit the subscribe button to get a bit of that. On to football now then, and as mentioned, some cracking European semi-finals coming our way this week. By the time this is put live on YouTube, we'll have already had the first leg of PSG and Bayern Munich's Champions League clash, and that's going to be a belter. But to catch up on all things European football and the last weekend of the EFL, which comes our way this weekend, I chatted to our regular football contributor and tipster, Felix Morson-Pate. Here's what he had to say. Well, it's good to have Felix Morson-Pate back with me to look ahead to this week of football. It's a cracking week, whatever level you're interested in, because at the top echelons of the game, we've got all the European competitions at the semi-final stage, so some really enticing first legs to look forward to. Then at the weekend, we've got the last day of the season in the English Football League. We've still got the Premier League title race rattling on, and the playoffs have already started in the National League, which does involve interest for myself, but we probably won't cover them in this week's episode anyway. Felix, a lot to talk about ahead of what is a great week of football. As we film on Tuesday afternoon, and this pod will be going out on Wednesday, so we won't dwell too much on the exact game itself, but we've got PSG versus Bayern to kick things off tonight. Licking my lips at the prospect of this game. Wednesday's semi-final is Arsenal and Atletico. I'm going to just bring the Champions League outright prices as of Tuesday afternoon up on the screen while we have a chat about this. But yeah, like I said, there's no point going too much in depth with PSG and Bayern, but you've got to say that this looks a really, really exciting time.
I think so, yeah. I think this is the tie. As soon as the draw bracket was announced, I do think this is the semi-final that everyone wanted to see, because you had Arsenal on paper had quite a nice draw on the other side, and it could have been Barcelona. In the end, it's Atletico. But I think on the left-hand side of the draw, these were the two teams that you thought could absolutely slug it out. I genuinely think this could be one of the best semi-final ties of the last 10 years, the way the two teams play. Obviously, they're so dominant in their domestic leagues. It means they really save themselves for the Champions League at this time of the season as well, which means they can really go hammer and tongs at each other. I think the ease at which both sides have been able to find goals this season, it sets it up for hopefully what should be a really entertaining 2 legs of football.
Yeah, and first leg will have concluded by the time this video goes live, so I don't want to make you look a mug by trying to make you predict what's going to have happened when everyone else already knows. But I mean, Bayern obviously the 9 to 5 best price market leaders to win the Champions League now with 4 teams left. You'd think that Bayern are worthy favourites just about. I mean, there's so many goals in the team, but like you said, PSG, it might play to their advantage. Is it fair to say, though, we won't make predictions on how that first leg will go. It's fair to say that Bayern are fair favourites?
I think so, yeah. I backed them. I actually backed them when they lost to Arsenal in the group stage. That was probably when they hit the biggest price. But for me, they're just the most complete team in the competition and probably in Europe. Obviously, like you said, the attack's brilliant. Harry Kane must be, very short trading to win the Ballon d'Or now, especially if he goes on and wins this, has a good World Cup in the summer. But behind him, there's such a talented cast, Elise, Musiala. But I think the defense is a little bit underrated as well. I know Neuer's had his struggles at times, but the likes of Jonathan Tah's come in from Bayer Leverkusen. I'm really impressed. Josip Stanisic is a player I'm a big fan of, and I think he's going to have a big part to play in Croatia if they're to have a World Cup run and lead on this next Croatian generation. Kimmich in midfield, just such an efficient, strong operator. Does a little bit of everything really well. Like, there's no obvious weaknesses in the team. I think in the other side, you can probably pick holes, but this Bayern squad, even looking at the depth, like they're missing players for the game, the first leg against PSG. I struggle to find many weak areas with them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as I say, this video will go after that first leg is concluded. Let's hope it lives up to what we're expecting. It should be a really entertaining affair. And then on Wednesday night, we have the anti-football derby between Arsenal and Atletico Madrid, which might be a bit of a come down for those neutrals wanting to be entertained. But nevertheless, a great opportunity for both sides to reach the Champions League final. Arsenal clearly expected to progress through this tie. They are pretty much a 5-2, 3.7 on the exchange to win the Champions League. And Atletico out of 15-2. But without just playing on the narratives of Arsenal having a bit of a dip and stuff, like, this is no buy for them, is it? Like, the market suggests they're going to walk through this tie, but it's going to be really tough.
I think it will be. I mean, they played them in the group stage, and I think they beat them 3 or 4-0. But that wasn't the Atletico now that are playing. Since the turn of the new year, they look like a side possessed. Simeone's been given permission to play basically his B team in La Liga because they're guaranteed to be in the top 4. And this is obviously the one thing that's missing from his CV. They've been to 2 finals, lost to Real Madrid twice. They've been, they know what they're doing at this stage. And they're going to make it tough for Arsenal. I would expect Arsenal to progress more often than not. But like you say, it's not going to be a walk in the park for them. And I think it's where Arsenal now put the focus. They're obviously in such a heated title race with Manchester City. Can they go? Would they be happy with going to Madrid with a draw, come back and nick it at the Emirates a little bit like they did in the previous round against Sporting? I'm not sure, but I think it'll still be, even if it might lack the goals of the PSG Bayern game that we're expecting, I think it will still be very entertaining because it will be 2 teams giving absolutely nothing to the other. And I think that sometimes really does make for good knockout football. I don't think it'll be turgid.
Yeah, and the goal line is around 2.25, so it is expecting to be more cagey than the other semi-final. But as we know, like an early goal could completely change the dynamic of any tie. So there is hope for those tuning in as neutrals that it might not be as dull as we are fearing, and Felix certainly has given a case there for it being a bit more entertaining. Well, we've got other European semi-finals to enjoy this week in terms of first legs. The Europa League is. Well, we've got an all-English semi-final, haven't we? We're definitely going to have an English team in the final, but who it's going to be remains to be seen. Nottingham Forest taking on Aston Villa, clearly having very juxtaposing seasons in the Premier League, but this is a great opportunity for both sides, and I think Forest, given the manner they've come through this tie and the atmosphere that they're generating at the City Ground in these home legs, they have a good chance to give themselves a lead to take to Villa Park. Braga taking on Freiburg in an intriguing semi-final on the other half of the draw as well. Felix, what's your kind of take on the Europa League as it stands? I mean, going in ahead of these first legs, we've got Villa 11-10 favourites to win the trophy. Obviously, Unai Emery has that know-how, but this looks open to me.
Very open. I think all 4 sides will fancy themselves, in particular the 2 English sides. I think they know there's so much riding on that semi-final that whoever gets through is going to be a favourite in the final. Which is in, I believe it's the Besiktas Stadium hosting it this year. So no real clear home advantage for any of the 4 sides that get through. I am a fan of Freiburg, and again, they're a side whose performances have slightly dropped off in the league, and they got knocked out the cup last week, but they've absolutely blitzed Celta Vigo in the quarterfinals. I think it was 6-1 on aggregate. And again, they've got a deep squad that they've managed to rotate in this competition. They can start bringing some of their heavy hitters in now. They would probably have been expecting to face Betis here, but Braga somehow overturned a 2-goal deficit in the second leg against Betis, so fair play to them for coming here. So, yeah, I think it is wide open. I would rightly make whichever of the English sides came through that semi-final a warm favourite. But this is 4 clubs, again, absolutely desperate for a trophy. Braga, the eternal bridesmaids behind the big 3 in Portugal. Forest and Villa, obviously having European pedigree in the past, for Eden to get this, especially Forest to almost do a Spurs, come through to the final, win it despite battling relegation. That would be a massive boost and justification, I suppose, for going through 4 managers in a season.
Yeah, definitely. Look, at the end of the day, I know Ange Postecoglou and all that narrative with whether a trophy's worth the eternal suffering in other competitions, and I think ultimately you have to say, for a fan perspective, it is. Winning a trophy is the be all and end all for a 99% of football fans, I think, and. I'm going to really, really enjoy watching that tie. I know Adam Smith, our racing correspondent, is a big Nottingham Forest fan. He'll be at the City Ground on Thursday. So from his perspective, I wish him well and hope to get a result there. It would be nice to see Forest in a European final. Just touch on the Conference League as well, Felix, because this is Crystal Palace's big chance to win a European trophy. And they're currently the 6-5 favourites ahead of these first leg semi-finals to lift the Conference League. But Shakhtar Donetsk await them in the semi-finals. On the other half, we've got Vallecano and Strasbourg. And again, whoever wins this trophy, it's going to be a nice story, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, my position is very much a layer of Crystal Palace. I said that right from the very beginning. I think they were rightfully installed favourites, but I think they were too short. And I just think the openness of the Conference League has been a breath of fresh air in the last 3 years. I know Chelsea kind of steamrolled it a little bit last year, but it's not often you get a team of their calibre dropping into it. And it's such an opportunity for not only the teams from the big 5 leagues that qualify, but the fact we've got a Shakhtar in the semis here. We had Djurgårdens from Sweden in the semis last year. It's a massive opportunity for these clubs to lift some silver. And I think I absolutely adore watching Strasbourg play whenever I watch them. Gary O'Neill, to his credit, has gone out there and done a great job, and who knows, he could be in the Chelsea hot seat come next August. We shall see with the goings on at that multi-club network. But as well as Palace have done, they have laboured a little bit through a couple of these knockout rounds. They didn't even qualify in the top 8, and I don't know if it's starting to run out of steam a little bit with Oliver Glasner there. We'll see where he is come August, if it's in the Palace dugout or somewhere else. And they've obviously got a talented squad and they are rightful favourites, but I'm just not sure with the 3 teams left in if they've got enough to win 2 more ties, but we shall see.
So if I'm putting you on the spot now, Felix, who would your 3 European winners be of these respective competitions?
Bayern Munich, Freiburg, Strasbourg.
Okay. English clubs not enjoying listening to that, but I get it. I think that I would definitely go with Bayern in the Champions League, and I think that these other 2 are just take your pick, really. I wouldn't really argue against any of the 4 in the 2 lesser competitions going all the way. I mean, I would give a word for Braga actually in the Europa League as well. I think they're a great team, and I really enjoyed watching them progress over the last few years. Like you're saying, that Portuguese league, it's impossible for them to make inroads on the big 3, but they've done their best, and they're a decent side. So looking forward to watching these pan out. Well, let's head over to the EFL then, because it's the final weekend of action in the English Football League. A lot has been decided last weekend, but there is still quite a lot of different things up for grabs. The Championship automatic promotion race, we don't know, to be honest. It's still Advantage Ipswich, but they're making heavy weather of it. And obviously lots of playoff ramifications still in the mix as well, different places and positions. And then in League One and League Two, it's similar story, really. A lot has been decided already, but we're going to have a few bits go down to the last day. Obviously, we're a little bit compacted in terms of time to do a deep dive on this, Felix. But out of these 3 leagues, is there any particular area that you would be focusing on this weekend? Any particular battles?
Yeah, I think the race for 6th between Hull, Wrexham and Derby is really interesting in the Championship. The Derby hosts Sheffield United with nothing to play for. Hull have got
Norwich.
Yes, who were knocked out of the playoff race last time out.
Yeah, I was really hoping Norwich would win that just to add an extra layer.
Yeah, and then Wrexham have got Middlesbrough, and by the time this goes out, we'll know kind of more where Middlesbrough's motivation is, because if Ipswich beat Southampton tonight, as we're recording, it's pretty much over for Borough. But if Southampton draw, and especially if Southampton win, we're going to have 4 sides going into final day within a point of each other, which is pretty unprecedented. But that obviously has massive ramifications then for Wrexham, who lost to Coventry last time out, which confirmed Coventry as champions, and then they've got to host Middlesbrough on final day. So with all that said, I would actually give it Advantage Derby, because I think they'll beat Sheffield United, and then they're relying on the other 2 dropping points. And I think Norwich will be up for that game at Hull. I think Hull have, the underlying numbers have come back and caught up with them in recent weeks, which a lot of us kind of data heads were saying would happen for a while, and the wheels have slowly started to fall off. And then with the Wrexham have just got such a tough fixture that I struggle to see it. So even if they both draw, that opens the door for Derby to beat Sheffield United and sneak in 6th. And I think that would set us up for a really intriguing playoff race with Derby and then 3 of the 4 above them. That's going to be very, very difficult to call.
I've got to say, I love a speculative punt, and I was looking at Norwich. I was eyeing up Norwich because I really did think pretty much the results went how I expected last weekend, other than Norwich drawing. And if they'd have won that, like we say, we'd have been on 67. They've got the superior goal difference, and they would have been right in there. Because, like you say, Wrexham have got a tough fixture. Hull have dropped off a cliff. But instead, the door is very much open for Derby County, as you say, if they can take.
Derby came from behind at QPR as well, and
if they'd
lost that obviously would have blown it wide open as well.
There was a great goal in there as well, wasn't there? Just
yeah.
So it was maybe the stars were aligning for them. That's going to be a great race to watch. In terms of League Two, loads of people would have backed MK Dons anti-post. There was a massive plunge on them in the summer. And it looks like those people will be getting their money because they've just overtaken Bromley at the death last weekend. Bromley couldn't win at Salford, and MK Dons now have it back in their hands. They simply need to win to secure the League Two title. They're at Fleetwood. Even money. I mean, it's when you think of the magnitude of the game for them, that could look a good price if they score early. But they've got to go and win the league. That brings its own pressure as well. You expect them to get that done?
I would think so. The way they're playing, they've really picked up, haven't they, in the last sort of 7 or 8 weeks. I think there was one disappointing 0-0 in there, maybe to Barrow, but other than that, they just score for fun, don't they? and it's very rare you get teams in League 1 and 2 that can just absolutely steamroll the sides like that. But obviously, they heavily invested in the summer. Paul Warner, a very, very good manager for the level as well, has got a cast of attacking options that he can rotate. So if they need to go and blitz a team, they can easily do that. And Fleetwood, one of the beachiest teams in the whole EFL, probably this weekend. So yeah, I'd expect them to get the job done now. I think it does look a half decent price, but you never know on final day, do you?
No, we should probably just have a look at the top end of like the playoff race in League 2 as well.
I mean, just to say that price looks like it's gone out from about 2s on into even money.
Yeah, so, it's a weird move, isn't it? One to watch, definitely. But if we look at the league in League 2, because 7th is the last playoff spot here, currently held by Chesterfield on 76. But you look at this, I mean, Notts County are, there, but Grimsby, they've got
I think Grimsby are mathematically in because Swindon and Chesterfield play each other.
Yes, correct, they do, yeah. So it's literally a straight shootout between Chesterfield and Swindon. And Swindon have thrown it away, let's be honest. They were comfortable. They were in the automatic hunt for a long period of the season.
Yeah, I thought they'd get the automatics done, to be honest.
Yeah, they've hit the rocks at the wrong time, Ian Holloway's men, and they've now got a one-game shootout with Chesterfield. They will need the win there, obviously, with Chesterfield having the point advantage. That's going to be an interesting one. Chesterfield, I seem to remember, did something similar last season, sneaked into the playoffs. So, yeah, I mean, any thoughts on that particular contest?
Not massively.
They have the home advantage.
They do, yeah. I do think Chesterfield is slightly the better side. I'd be probably lean towards them. The other thing I was going to mention is that race.
Chesterfield favourites, sorry.
Yeah, that race for third. I think it's almost imperative for Salford to overtake Cambridge there. Obviously, they were the first big money story coming into League 2, and they've since been surpassed by Stockport, Wrexham, even Notts County to a certain extent. They've kind of treaded water, and I know they've made it into the playoffs a couple of times. But if they can just get over the hill, get a win, and they're at Crawley, Cambridge are at Crewe. So if they can somehow overtake them there and finally make that step into League 1, I think that could be the firecracker they need to really kick on with this project that's been going almost a decade now. And yeah, I think obviously it'd be good for Cambridge to bounce straight back up. But I think if Salford are to drop into the playoffs, I would be avoiding them of the 4 sides, definitely.
Yeah, well, the next time we speak, we'll have a really clear picture of the playoffs in the EFL, which are always a great betting heat as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely love the playoffs. And it's playoffs for my lads, Carlisle down in the National League. We don't know our semi-final opponents yet, Forest Green or Boreham Wood, who face off on Wednesday night. So I'm excited. I'm fully in playoff mode already. Everyone else can catch up to me. Just a final mention then on this week, Felix. Any other football that's sort of worth flagging this weekend, or anything that's taken your eye? Another European leagues are rattling towards a conclusion, and Premier League going on in the background as well.
Yeah, I think we've got to look at Scotland as well, haven't we?
Oh, yeah.
The title race that's going on there.
Oh, yeah.
Hearts play Rangers this weekend. Hearts win there. Basically knocked Rangers out of the reckoning, but Hearts have got to play Rangers, Motherwell and Celtic. They just about got over the line, didn't they, against Hibs? Hibs were down to 9. So, yeah, I think Celtic would fancy themselves going to Hibs this weekend, but if Hearts can get over the line at home to Rangers, that sets it up so nicely. And they look like they were going to do it for so long. They've wobbled a bit. They've pulled it back. It would be a sensational story if they could finally break the stranglehold that the top 2 have got over the Scottish League over the last 40 years. And I think there surely can't be many neutrals that aren't rooting for them. I think if they get this done, then I think Motherwell will almost fold for them, because Motherwell are basically just guaranteed to finish 4th now. They had a little bit of a tilt at the top 3, but that's more or less over now. The Scottish Player of the Year is 2 Motherwell players and 2 Hearts players, which I believe is the first time ever that an Old Firm player hasn't been nominated. So it just shows the bizarreness of the season up there. But yeah, Hearts Rangers, I think it's on Monday, isn't it? That is the one to watch for me this weekend. It is
Monday at 5:30, a bank holiday treat for any neutral. And yeah, like so many people on this Hearts gamble as well. Like, so for the punters, I'm willing them home as well. And I'd love to see it. I've been growing up on the border. I take a keen interest in the Scottish football, and it is a great story if Hearts can do it. And you worry that they might never get a better chance, because the Old Firm duo are unlikely to have this much sort of upheaval mid-season at the same time for a long time again. So hopefully Hearts can do it, get over the line, get that extra funding, player pulling, and establish a big 3 rather than a big 2. But we'll see. There's a few twists and turns still to come to that. That's one good thing that the the league splitting in half in Scotland, it assures you that there's going to be some great drama because all the big teams have got to play each other in the running.
It does when it's this close. Obviously, if someone's 20 points clear at the
yes,
split.
true. But in this particular position, yeah,
absolutely.
You think of nothing better than Hearts, Celtic and Rangers all facing each other in these closing weeks. So Celtic 5-4 favourites, Hearts 11-8 and Rangers 4-1. That could change a hell of a lot based off the back of this weekend's game. So Felix, as always, pleasure catching up with you, mate. We'll be back for our latest World Cup pod. If you haven't checked that out already, do give that a little look. That'll be dropping on Friday, where we're doing 6 mini episodes looking ahead to this summer's World Cup. And it's going to be a very enjoyable episode because I think we're going to start diving into group winner markets, which I'm looking forward to. So, Felix, thanks very much for marking our card. Good luck with your football bets this weekend, and we'll catch up with you again next week.
See you later.
Cheers, mate. Thank you. Well, always a pleasure chatting to Felix, and those European semi-finals really are mouthwatering out there. Looking forward to enjoying all of those. And if you're looking for some football insight in terms of betting, there'll be plenty coming up on oddsnow.com ahead of the weekend. So make sure you head over and pay us a visit. We've got some of our best football tipsters and myself trying to point you in the direction of a few winners. And my focus this weekend will be that EFL final weekend with plenty of games with a lot riding on them. So head over to oddsnow.com if you want some football betting tips ahead of this weekend. Okay, rounding off on this week's show, it is me, and I'm going to be just doing a little bit of another sport roundup. Now, last week we were joined by Adam Drury, who helped run us through the World Snooker Championship. Unfortunately, I haven't got Adam on this week's podcast because he's got a pretty good excuse. He's actually at the Crucible today. So I'm going to let him enjoy the action, and I'm just going to catch us up on where we're at with the snooker and how the market has reacted since last week. Okay, so we're down to 8 at the Crucible this year, and it's got an interesting makeup to this market because you'd think with an 8-runner field, given we went off with a virtually a 2-1 favourite in Zhao Xintong, and the fact that Zhao Xintong is still there, that this market would be a little bit more widespread. However, the biggest price runners are Barry Hawkins and Hossein Vafai at the time of recording at 14-1. So it really is an open-looking Final 8, and we've got some quarterfinals underway that are very close contests. No one's really running away with their quarterfinals at the time of speaking. So Xintong is very much locked in a battle with Sean Murphy at 8-all. Xintong remains the 2-1 favourite to win this tournament and defend his title, where Murphy is 8-1. Murphy's had a lead for most of that match, but just been reeled in by the reigning champion. So it's going to be interesting to see how that one concludes. And obviously, if Murphy was to win, that would cause a serious shake-up in the betting. Then we have Wu Yiza at 9-2. And this feels like a good point to just give Adam a pat on the back, really, because last week I put Adam on the spot and asked him to name his semi-final lineup. And he gave us Wu Yiza, John Higgins, and Zhao Xintong as 3 of his 4. Now, the other one, Kyron Wilson, has exited. But they were all decent prices, particularly Higgins and Yiza. And that's looking increasingly likely, as you can see from the market in front of you here, that he might have been on the money there. So fair play to Adam. I know he's packed John Higgins and put him up as his outright selection on last week's show at 22-1. Now sort of 8-1 best price for Higgins at the time of recording. But these quarterfinals, they're all tantalisingly tight, and it would take a brave man to try and call them at the time of recording. Even Hossein Vafai, the outsider, at 14-1, he stunned Judd Trump, didn't he, in the last 16, and Trump kind of told him after the game that he needs to believe that he can win the title because of how well he played in that particular game. So you wouldn't want to put a line through anybody at this particular stage, but it's certainly got an interesting look to it. Obviously, the format continues to extend. I know Neil Robertson has come out and said that he doesn't really see the need for the format to extend beyond best of 25 frames. But we all know that snooker is quite a game that is sort of stuck in traditions in many respects, and I can't really see that changing anytime soon. Plus, for my personal money, the increase in format is one of the unique challenges of the World Championship. So I think that's just part of the package, I'm afraid. So if I was trying to call a winner right now, it's tough going. I mean, Xintong, if he comes through this test with Murphy, then it's going to be hard to stop it. Like with many sports, it's kind of how I look at Luke Littler in darts. As the format gets longer and longer, you're less likely to get an upset, and class tends to rise to the boil. And we saw the way Xintong won the final last year. I mean, he's very comfortable with the extended format. I do have a sneaky feeling that Murphy might just get over the line, and I think right now I'd be inclined to take a little punt on Sean Murphy 8-1. If he stumbles over the line here against Xintong, then I do think he's kind of got a great opportunity to go all the way. Obviously, a former winner knows what it takes. But yeah, it's not a market I'd be playing with much confidence right now. I think if you've got any of the 8 runners in the book early, you'd be feeling excited and feeling optimistic about your chances. I think great shout from Adam on John Higgins at 22-1. Obviously edged out Ronnie O'Sullivan in that epic, and now looks poised. And if he makes the final, it'll be a tough nut to crack as well. So no conclusive selections from me at this stage, but an intriguing end to the tournament is in store over the coming days. Just finishing this week's pod, as we did last week, with a little bit of darts chat. And I don't really want to dwell on the Premier League because we talked about it at length last week, and it seems like many players are effectively just playing for that 4th spot in the league now. And that battle actually narrowed a little bit last week. And I made a case for maybe getting Rock and Bunting on side in case one of them could go and win it last week in week 12. But the fact that those two went out of the quarterfinal stage, coupled with some points scored for other contenders, means that it's looking more like a sort of 5 or 6 horse race now. And with 3 of them pretty much locked in the form of Clayton, Littler and Gerwyn Price, it looks like Van Gerwen, Humphreys and Van Veen are battling for that 4th spot. And I can't say it has a lot of interest and appeal to me now as a betting medium. Probably just going to sort of take a watching brief for the next 3 weeks, and I'll hopefully be able to put up some bets on finals night when we have the confirmed semi-final and final lineup. But it has been an interesting week on the floor, quite a historic week actually, because on Monday afternoon, Bo Greaves became the first ever female darts player to win a PDC full tour event. So she competed against the men, as she has been doing all season since winning her tour card in January. There were 128 players in the field. 127 of them were males, 1 female, and Greaves was the winner. She was fantastic on the day, some unbelievable performances. She beat 3 former world champions on the way to victory, including a 7-1 rout of Gary Anderson in the semi-final, and then a fantastic 1-4-2 checkout in a deciding leg to beat Michael Smith 8-7 in the final. It was an emotional victory for Greaves, and I think all darts fans and darts punters would have known that this day was going to come. She's simply too good not to win events. And the question, I guess, now is, will that see her kick on to new levels now? Because she's conquered that floor level. And the next question and the next challenge will be to do it at TV level and maybe major level. And she's going to have opportunities over the coming months. More at the back end of the year, it should be said. I think qualifying for things like the World Match Play feels a tad ambitious at this stage. She would need some really fantastic results in the next few weeks. But we are going to be seeing a lot of Bo Greaves for the years to come. And it's just interesting to me to see where the market kind of places her now. As you can see on the screen, there's been a little bit of movement for her in the World Championship betting market. The likes of Bet365, Betthread, Ladbrokes and Coral all choosing to cut Greaves to 50-1 chance for the 2027 PDC World Championship. At the time of recording, there's still 100-1 available with a few of the softer books, including Star Sports and Priced Up, but also Live Score Bet, BetMGM, etc. She's around 90 on the exchange at the time of recording. And it'd be interesting to see how that price moves. I'm not anticipating a whole lot of movement. And what you also have to factor in is that, like we saw it prior to last year's World Championship, when the big money comes into this market, they only tend to want to be with the likes of Littler, Humphreys, Van Veen. So I'm not sure Bo will get all that much shorter until she goes and wins something like a European Tour or a TV event. But yeah, I totally get why people wanted to get her on side. I have said many times before that I think Bo Greaves' ceiling is as high as anybody. When she's on, she's on. And she's proven that. She's had victories over Littler. She's ran the likes of Humphreys close many a time. So I'm very pro Bo Greaves. Would I be rushing to take 50-1 about her to win the World Championship? I wouldn't. But have I seen worse bets than the 100-1? I have. So it's an interesting one to follow. And yeah, fair play to her. Just delighted to see her making that breakthrough that I think we all knew was going to come at some stage. Well, the other winner on the floor this week was Vessel Nyman, and he's having an unbelievable season so far. That's his 4th Players' Championship win of the season. We've only had 12 events, and Nyman actually skipped 2 of them. So he's turned up to 10 events. He's made the final in 5 of them, and he's won 4 of those 5 finals. This is remarkable stuff we're seeing from the young Dutchman. A player who, he's had his problems. Obviously, he served a ban in his youth for getting caught up in some match-fixing issues. He served his time, paid his dues, and came back. And I think we instantly saw that he had bags of talent. Now, the big problem for Nyman has been transferring that talent to the big stage and also bringing consistency to his game. Now, this year, we've seen him bring the consistency. He's also won on the European Tour as well for the first time. And honestly, I'm starting to think he should be the betting favourite for these Players' Championship events. Obviously, this week, we haven't had Littler turn up to a single Players' Championship event so far this season. And Luke Humphries will traditionally be put in as the favourite when he turns up. Van Veen will be priced as second favourite. And then you have Nyman in with the likes of Van Gerwen, etc. But I think on all known form now, you've got to say that Wessel Nyman should be favourite for these 4 events. 1, because he's taking it more seriously than anyone else. And 2, he's just producing an outrageous level of consistency that makes him extremely tough to beat. And his confidence grows with every single win. And I think he's got to be the most exciting player in the world of darts right now. I cannot wait to see what he can do at the World Match Play in July. He's definitely going to be there. And he might even, with his recent wins, I think as we talk right now, he's nudged himself into a position where he will A, be seeded, but B, also be on the opposite side of the draw to Luke Littler. So his chances improve with every passing week. And I'm really, really excited to see how Nyman fares in Blackpool. As you can see on the screen, Betfred, the sponsors of the World Match Play, are up for betting on the event. They're the only ones at this stage because we're still a couple of months out. But I think the time has come to get Nyman on side for this World Match Play. 20-1 at the time of recording. I could see him going off nearly half that, maybe something like 12-1, particularly if he avoids Littler's half of the draw. I just think that this is a player who is growing in confidence. The floodgates have now opened on the floor. And while the major stage is very different, and we have seen Nyman have difficulties at times with the big stage, that European Tour win would give me a lot of confidence that he's getting closer than ever to bringing his best game to the big stage. If he brings his best game to the big stage, quite simply, we have a new man at the top echelons of the game. We have someone on a par with Littler, Humphries, for me. And he could be the man to challenge Luke Littler over the coming years. He really could. So I don't think there's many more major tournaments where you're going to be able to back Wessel Nyman at 20-1. I think it's a matter of time before he has this breakthrough on the big stage. And I think that if he avoids the Littler side of the draw, as is looking increasingly likely, then this 20-1 looks an absolutely stonking each way bet. So I'm going to officially advise a 1 point each way stake on Wessel Nyman to win the 2026 Betfred World Match Play. Okay, well, that's all we've got time for on this week's edition of the Betting Breakdown podcast here at Odds Now. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Big thanks to my guests, Adam and Felix, and we'll be back again next Wednesday with more guests, more insight, and hopefully more winners for you. Do let me know in the comments what you're backing this coming week. If you've got a nap for the weekend or a long shot that you like the look of, I'd love to hear it. If you haven't already as well, please do hit that subscribe button and help get us towards that 1,000 subscriber mark. And if you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. It all helps with the growth of the channel and allows us to bring you more content for free here on the Odds Now YouTube channel. I've been Matt Hill. Thanks for joining me. Good luck, and I'll see you again very soon.